Welcome to another edition of The Future Fast, where we look at how technology will change, especially the business future, but also the future of society in South Africa and across Africa and the world in the coming decade. And with us today, we have Cathy Smith, who's Managing Director of SAP Africa, a leader globally in enterprise software. So they're in a perfect position to understand the changing needs of businesses and also the trends that are going to shape business in the coming years. Welcome, Cathy.
Thank you so much, Arthur. It's such a pleasure to be with you today.
Well, let's get right into it. How is business changing for companies across Africa? And of course, we know COVID-19 has changed the entire landscape, but it's moved beyond just having to digitally transform and be cloud ready and to be able to work remotely. What can we expect this year, and what are the big shifts that you see?
So it's a fascinating question and a really interesting topic, Arthur. It's so interesting to see how our industry has evolved over the last few years, and particularly looking at it from the point of view of our customers. And what we see more and more is that with the access to information that has proliferated the world today, that more and more our customers are very well equipped to be able to understand technology and to understand how technology best influences their business. So I don't know if you remember, but many years ago, IT companies were always in the power seat. And if they said you needed to buy X, and then often, customers had very little choice and they would have to end up buying that particular solution. And that has been the fundamental change that we've seen in the last few years, in that more and more ICT companies have emerged. Competition and choice is proliferate across the ICT industry. And customers have access to more information so they can make more informed choices. And that has changed one thing, which is about the customer experience. But a second thing that we've seen happen quite a lot is with economies struggling as they have in the last few years, and with governance becoming a very important topic in terms of how business cases are put together and accountability around delivering against those business cases matter, we see that customers are no longer interested in doing 18-month, 2-year, 5-year projects before they can actually see a return on the investment that they had made. And they want to hold the owners of business cases accountable. So the appetite for complexity is really diminishing. And what we're seeing more and more is that customers want to see a quick return on investment, so quick realization of value, which means we have to be more iterative in our engagement with customers around how do we help them around their digital transformation journey. It cannot be a 5 or 10-year process. We're talking about between 6 weeks and 3 months, and doing this together. So that's another very interesting change that we see happening. And then in addition to that, it's not just about IT companies talking to the IT departments. A lot of the solutions that are allowing our customers to be competitive in their own industries, to really differentiate themselves, is around getting the entire business to interlock with the IT division and to put together holistic strategies. So our need to be able to engage with CFOs, with chief marketing officers, HR directors has never been more important, because we have to start thinking about the customer in their entirety. What is their business strategy truly? And then working together with all their stakeholders to make sure that we get the right solutions in place to help them achieve their objectives.
How has that changed your internal processes and also your approach to innovation?
Absolutely had a magnificent and significant impact on us. At a global level, our innovation drive is really about not just putting together bespoke pieces of solutions, but really looking at making things seamless and more integrated so that the experience for the customer is better. From an engagement point of view, this is about saying we need to absolutely be in partnership with our customers and to be inclusive with our stakeholders in the ecosystem, and to make sure that we are getting our own teams to understand the importance of, first and foremost, making sure that we have something simple on the table, something simple that truly speaks to the customer's objectives. We have some fantastic stories of customers transforming their ERP to the latest version of S4, in some cases in a period of 6 to 8 weeks. And immediately the benefits of what we can offer as a result of that is very, very obvious. We've also had to be very disciplined with ourselves and our partners to say, for this to happen, for this success to be done in such a quick turnaround time, we have to be disciplined around customization. So the truth is that often the complex, long-winded projects are a result of intense and extensive customization on solutions. And actually, we had to change our mindset to encourage our customers and our partners to realize that customization is not the differentiating factor on something like a financial planning system. That's not where you differentiate against your competition. It is much more around what you're selling and how you're engaging with your consumers, wherever your customers are. And that the value and the return on investment and the ease of managing an IT system that is standardized by far outweighs the luxury of customization. So it's been quite a significant mind shift change around how we partner with our customers, and how do we drive a tough conversation around, if you've got a world-class financial system, a world-class HR system, there's no need to standardize it. We're trying to limit that as much as possible.
How does that affect SAP's groundbreaking technology it's developed in recent years? I think of SAP HANA with in-memory data analysis and Leonardo for artificial intelligence, which were incredible technologies, but seem to complicate the tech stack. Has that stack simplified, and how are those technologies affected by this approach?
Those are technologies, actually, Arthur, they've created the opportunity for us to simplify. By bringing them all together, as I talked earlier, around integrating them and creating it as the platform of choice, so that it's simpler for our customers to say, we're building this platform, which is integrated. It brings everything together so that on that platform, what we call the business technology platform, that's when you start to differentiate. That's when you start to say, now, what do I want to do in my business around artificial intelligence? Does IoT play in my business? And is that something that's going to help me create a market share, attract new customers? And to be able to do that, you need to have this platform. So our manner of simplifying and making it easier for our customers is to take advantage of all the innovations we've done in the past, integrate it better, and to create this platform. So nothing is wasted. Everything is just being brought together in the best way possible.
Moving on to the customers themselves, and especially what you're seeing across Africa, what are some of the examples of how they've taken advantage of the simplification of the platform while having access to all of these seemingly complex technologies?
Yeah, so we have some wonderful examples, and actually it starts, and I'll give you two different examples. I have a customer in Nigeria who made the decision to run a very strict and focused program around getting things done in a sequential manner. So they went first and foremost and said they needed to make sure that their HR solutions were working brilliantly, and they drove an entire program because it was so critical for them to have control over their people in terms of what hiring, leavers, all of those good things. They decided that was the most important one for them and accelerated that. And then as soon as that was done, they said they needed to start creating the foundation for their platform, which was the S4 HANA move, and made sure that that happened properly. And within a period of less than 12 months, they already successfully have deployed everything that they intended to. And so they do it in a very sequential manner because that suits their business best. I have another customer in Angola who decided they're going to do everything and they're going to make it work. Very innovative, a young organization that wants to make sure that the entire business is based on digital solutions. And they went through the entire change in almost a version of a big bang approach. And they already completed they're one of my examples of a less than 3-month implementation. And they're seeing the real fruits of having a digital infrastructure that's allowing the organization to have a strong handle on the processes within the organization. So it really does depend on, I would say, it starts with the will of the leadership at the top and the involvement of leadership in that strategic development of a digital transformation. I cannot overemphasize the importance of this being an integrated company decision and owning it as an integrated company to make sure that the changes do happen. Because that for us has been evidence of how customers have been successful in their transformation. So definitely all about all parts of the business coming together and leadership from the top being actively involved in the change.
We still see many organizations that resist digital transformation or briefly appear to embrace it, talk the language of embracing it, but the moment they're able to go back to the old way, they dump all of those learnings and all of that investment because they hanker so badly for, let's call it the old days of 18 months ago. How do you deal with customers like that? And I'm talking not just about businesses, but the likes of schools and governments as well.
I think that's such a fabulous topic on its own. I love that question, Arthur. So yes, we have definitely seen and we continue to see many customers who are either intimidated by the thought of massive change because they love being in their comfort zone. Some being confused because there's so much choice out there. It can become complicated as to which path do you want to follow. And then, of course, I talked earlier about the accountability. No, these decisions are significant decisions because they fundamentally change the way an organization operates. So, I mean, it's only understandable that there's a level of hesitancy and a little bit of fear in making the decision. And what we're finding more and more is that we have to find a way to differentiate ourselves in how we are engaging with our customers and to truly speak to, one, how do we build trust? Two, how do we create confidence and transparency around what choices are available for our customers? And one of my favorite examples that I like to use, Arthur, talks about, in some cases, we find that going to speak to our customers about things that are broader than just a technology solution can fundamentally change an engagement. I have two examples I would like to share. The first was I have a customer in Ethiopia. And we had been struggling for them to find a way on understanding how they wanted to move forward on their transformation journey. And when we met with the customer at a very pivotal point in the engagement, we had our entire conversation around the societal challenges in Ethiopia and the kind of things that we were doing in Ethiopia to help contribute to strong societal growth and transformation. That was a pivotal point in our relationship where all of a sudden the customer starts to see us as an organization that's vested not just in the top and bottom line, but it also in the societies in which we operate. So building that trust and being able to bring bigger value to a customer is an important element of how we start to build trust and give customers confidence that we're not just driving a transaction. The second example for me is around how we are dealing with customers in understanding what their business objectives are. And I particularly like the example around organizations that are challenged with attraction and retention of staff. And there are many technology solutions that can provide the foundation for giving you access to information around your people, but doesn't necessarily help you understand the kind of things you could consider in terms of fixing that problem. It's a problem we've all been faced with for decades, right? How do I attract and retain the best staff? And what we're finding now is that using our purpose strategy, so we have a strategy that talks to society, to business, and to the environment around sustainability. And we also believe that the ethos around this has to be demonstrated as SAP being both the enabler. So, how do we do things from a purpose point of view, but also the exemplar, that we actually are doing it ourselves. Now, in the case of an HR director who's struggling with a problem we talked about around retention of skills, we have an example where, as SAP in Africa, we've decided to partner with a social enterprise and to concentrate on employees' moments of significance. And the example I'll use is when individual employees have babies. So instead of going to buy the traditional bouquet of flowers from the normal big, retailer that sells flowers. We would rather go and get a little baby basket of goodies and then contribute an equivalent amount to doing something good in society. Now, the benefit of that is we've engaged our employees. They feel part of the organization, but at the same time, we're doing good for society. Now, imagine if we said to a customer, we have a fantastic HR solution, and that solution provides you with information that gets you to understand all kinds of things about your employees that'll help you understand their moments of significance in their lives, which will improve employee engagement. And in so doing, we'll be able to retain the best skills. And people talk. They'll say that's a fantastic company to work for, which means you'll be able to attract the best skills. And we're finding that's a different way of getting customers to say, I struggle to see what I want to do in the digital world. But when you articulate it in the context of what's really real and tangible, you build confidence with the customer and the decision-making process becomes much easier. But the final example I would say is more and more we are talking to customers around, we want to not just go in and put a business case, a fabulous technology solution, perhaps even support the implementation process. We don't stop there. We want to know that we're working with the customers around implementation, adoption, consumption of the solution, and more importantly, to work with the customer to go back to the business case and to demonstrate that what the business case called for either achieved the full objectives, or there were some changes, or there was an overachievement. And so for me, the reason and the way we would overcome the challenges that customers have to make that bold decision is about taking examples like that to build confidence and trust.
You've talked about societal issues and you've talked about addressing the quest for skills, and those two come together in a massive way across the continent, particularly in the past year in terms of the wide-scale destruction of jobs and job opportunities. How do you see that landscape, and what is the hope? What are the prospects for especially technology helping to create new waves of jobs, not just positions here and there?
Yeah, I think with the lockdowns and the pandemic in 2020, we've seen absolute, really devastating impacts around many different parts of our footprint. So whether it's in Nigeria or Kenya or even in SADC in South Africa. And we have a great passion around driving digital skills. And we were faced at the beginning of last year with a dilemma of much of our programs that we drive is around getting young students into classrooms and doing training and certifications and all those good things. What ended up happening after quite a while of nervousness and worry about what we could do is as we flipped towards doing things more digitally, so more virtually, and seeing the response that we have from young people that come from really difficult backgrounds where you would think they would give up because the effort of being connected and having the capacity to do things virtually may not be feasible. We have actually seen the greatest improvement and reach in 2020, which is continuing to 2021, because we are able now to run more programs than we've ever been able to before. So one of our flagship programs is what we call the Young Professionals Program, and the Africa version is called Skills for Africa. Typically, we would run 2 to 3 cohorts per year, and the way the program runs is we have about 24 kids who go on to a 3-month training program. They get full certification, but more importantly, they get placed in one of our partners or customers or even at SAP for a 9-month internship. That creates experience, and that's really always been the dilemma we've had once certification happens. In 2020, we did 6 cohorts. We covered countries we'd never touched before, so Ghana, Zimbabwe, Botswana. And what it's created is the realization that we can do more. And if you talk about what do I see for 2021, I see a broadening of reach, going to more and accessing more students or potential students across the landscape and contributing to employability. But in parallel, there's just so much you can do within corporates around placement and addressing the unemployment situation. But in parallel, we are looking at the really interesting topic around social enterprises. So as you know, social enterprises are the old version of NGOs that drive revenue. And we are really focused on how do we support social enterprises to be more successful so that they can hire more people, that they can contribute to economic growth. And we do need both from a CSR point of view, but also within the organization. And this is where we want to be the exemplar and really work with other organizations to do the same thing, is to look at a percentage of our procurement spend and to, instead of allocating it to the traditional, big organizations. I'll give an example. If let's say we buy all our stationery from a mega multinational, instead of spending stationery there, perhaps there's a social enterprise we could spend that funds with that does good for society. They enable more employment, and of course that helps us as SAP to get a better service. So it's my view is that the pandemic and the lockdown has opened our minds to the possibilities of how we could expand and broaden reach and make it a more accelerated drive towards contributing towards digital skills.
We've heard people talk in that context about the pandemic potentially resulting in a more empathetic society. Would you agree with that?
Well, I can only comment from the experiences we have had, Arthur. I don't think I have seen people as in tune with the realities of what they have. And I hear often people say, I am so fortunate because there is an understanding and an awareness of how difficult so many millions of people's lives are on the continent. And the interest and the desire to do more, to contribute more, we've seen accelerate significantly since 2020. And that's why we've seen all our programs start to create more traction, is because our employees are wanting to be more involved. And I really believe that this has been an opportunity for us to really see things from a different perspective and to realize that we need more sharing, we need to have more inclusion, and that we cannot just take things for granted as we have in the past.
That could certainly result in a transformed kind of enterprise in the future. So I'm going to ask you as a final question, Cathy, to look into the crystal ball and tell me what you see in the year 2030 in terms of the shape of the enterprise, how they run, and how they will use technology.
Oh my gosh, 2030, what a fantastic thought to be thinking about, like a dream to think about, eh? I would see that we will have enterprises that are made up of probably less people than we have today, and we'll see more enterprises spread across economies. So it's not going to be just a few, kind of big dominant players. I think there'll be more spread. And I think the profile of the enterprises will be with people that are working because of the love for the business that they're in, but also that they start their day, their careers with a greater purpose. And I think that level of consciousness will be much more evident and prevalent in our employees. And the way our employees will operate will be in a very different basis. A much bigger focus on measuring outputs and impact as opposed to time in the office or time on a webinar. Much more drive around values-based contribution. And I think an integration of flexibility between the way we work and the way we live, which means the way we lead is going to have to change fundamentally. We're going to have a different way of engaging with staff. Staff will have a different way of being accountable for what they deliver. And I think the entire dynamic will be based on trust, flexibility, and definitely around value.
What a great vision. Let's hope it becomes reality fast. Thank you, Cathy Smith, Managing Director of SAP Africa.
Thank you so much, Arthur.